Today I'm talking about the Reebok Floatride Grow after 100 miles. 13.06 miles, 9 minutes, 15 seconds per mile, 142 beats per minute today. Going for a long but easy run and getting to the 100 mile mark in the Reebok Floatride Grow. Now, before I give you my thoughts on this shoe after 100 miles, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me by Reebok for the purpose of review. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So, with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Reebok Floatride Grow after 100 miles. After 100 miles, I'm still having a very hard time getting those words out of my mouth. It seems to be a little bit of a tongue twister for me. Reebok Floatride Grow. We'll get there eventually. So what we have in the forefoot is 16.5 millimeters of stack height with a 9 millimeter drop reaching up to 25.5 millimeters of stack height in the heel in what is a neutral shoe that I believe is intended for daily training. Now, the story behind this shoe, the main thing that differentiates it from its sibling shoe, the Reebok Floatride Forever Energy 2, is the fact that this is a much more sustainable or friendly to the environment version of that shoe. The upper is made out of eucalyptus bark, but this material is very soft, supple, comfortable, and extremely cozy, to where I think that's probably the main adjective that I use to describe the shoe is cozy. Now, in terms of the insole, what we have is an insole made out of bloom algae, and they're harvesting from areas where the bloom algae is invasive. So it's something that's renewable and solving a problem at the same time. That's ingenuity at its finest. For the midsole, we got a midsole that is made out of castor bean oil. So instead of using normal, like a petroleum to create like an EVA type of foam, you're instead using the oil from a castor bean to make this midsole material. And then on the outsole, instead of using a petroleum base for the rubber, we're getting actual rubber from rubber trees in this outsole. And it's also coming in this lovely gum color, which I'm always a big fan of that for the outsole. So this is an eco-friendly shoe, and yet it still delivers. It's not just eco for show, it's eco, and it definitely is still a running shoe that I've really been enjoying my time in. Most of my runs have been in the 5 to 7 mile range for this shoe, but I've had it up. The last couple of runs I've had were 13 miles for today, 11 miles for the last time I was in it. And it can certainly handle those longer distances as well. And a lot of that comes down to this Reebok Floatride material that's in here. Now, I'm not sure if there's any differences between the Floatride that's in this Floatride Grow or the Floatride that's in the Floatride Energy 2. I haven't had the opportunity yet to review that shoe, but I will definitely be taking a look at the version 3 for next year because I've been really enjoying what this material has to offer. I think the primary benefit to this midsole foam is that it's certainly more cushioned than it looks, or in other words, you can get the level of performance that you want while using less midsole foam to get there. And so even though 16.5 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot isn't like the lowest of stack heights I've ever seen, it is a little bit on the lower end. And when you're running in it, one of the things that I do appreciate is that I'm getting a really good road feel from it. I'm feeling low to the ground in a good way. And yet at the same time, I don't feel like I'm running in a low stack height shoe. I feel like I'm getting really well supported by this midsole foam. I do occasionally feel some of the rocks when I'm running on the dirt roads, kind of poking through every now and again. But for the most part, I'm really enjoying kind of the balance that it's giving me in terms of really great road feel, but also a responsive and springy sensation underfoot. And I think springy is a really good word to use for it. Now, I've been using this shoe primarily for my easy days, but the shoe can certainly pick up the pace as well. The only thing is with this particular model, I think the way that they designed the upper with this eucalyptus bark material, I think they were going for a very cozy vibe because you've got these like thick, chunky laces, which don't really scream performance to me. I feel like they work for the look of what they were going for with like a sustainable or like a plant-based shoe, but ideally I like something that's a little bit, you know, more tidy than this. And then this upper material, it's a little bit on the floppy side. So while it's really cozy and I super appreciate all the foam that's in the padding back here, and I absolutely love the coziness of the tongue here, which is made out of just that eucalyptus bark material. It's so soft and it sits on top of your foot ever so gently, and these laces are super gentle. As much as I don't like them for performance reasons, for comfort reasons, they're really nice. So there's a lot of like relaxed materials that are going on in the upper, and so for that reason it felt a little bit sloppy when I was picking up the pace a little bit, but it's not the midsole material that's holding it back. I think it's some of this stuff that's going on in the upper, but it's not that it's a bad shoe at faster paces. It certainly is up to the task, but I think this total package of what we have in the Floatride Grow, I think its sweet spot is really going to be those middle to long distance runs that you're going for an easy to maybe moderate paces. But I think like the ideal way to use this shoe is when you just want to put on some shoes and go out there, not really worry too much about pace, heart rate, power, whatever. Just go out there and have a carefree run. This is a really good shoe to bring along because like the whole vibe that it has going for it, the way that it's relaxed up top, the springiness underfoot, it just really sets you up for the opportunity to get into that runner's high, get into that flow state when you're out there running. I found myself multiple times just running and kind of like letting my mind wander a little bit and daydreaming a little bit in the shoe, just because the experience was very relaxing. Not that it's a slow shoe, but it's a very relaxed shoe, and that's something that I think has been really fantastic over the last 100 miles. Now, in terms of the wear and tear, the upper is holding up really well. I'm not seeing any signs that this shoe is starting to fail in any places. The material is just as comfortable now as it was when I first got it. In fact, it might be even a little bit more comfortable now and a little bit more floppy than when I first got it, because it is getting really nice and cozy all the way through the upper. In the midsole, I feel like it's not as fresh as it was at the 100-mile mark, but certainly not wearing down early. I feel like it's right about where it should be for a 100-mile shoot. It still feels great and still feels like there's plenty of life left into it. And on the outsole, I'm seeing a little bit of wear in the normal spots that I would see wear, usually like in the outer part, back towards the heel on this right foot, and then kind of like on the same side, but on the left shoe, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing a little bit more on the right than I do on the left, hardly any on the left side. On the right, I'm seeing a little bit, which is, again, normal for me and my foot strike. And I'm seeing a little bit of wear right here in the pads of the foot, kind of like right in between like the midfoot and the forefoot. Again, for a daily trainer, the exact type of wear that I would expect to see. And I think overall it's holding up really well. I've been running on it in dirt roads, on pavement, and it's very comfortable in either of those situations. So a shoe that I've been enjoying from the beginning to the 100-mile mark, and something that's going to definitely have me trying more Reebok shoes next year, because I just really impressed with this midsole foam. Now, for this particular version, the eco-friendly version, the Floatride Grow, you're paying a $20 premium. So this one comes in at $120, but the regular Floatride Energy 2 comes in at $100, which is a tremendous value. I feel like $120 for this shoe, right about spot on. That's, I think, a really great price point for this shoe. I think you're getting a good value with it. At $100 retail for the regular version, I think that's amazing. So those are my thoughts on the Reebok Floatride Grow after 100 miles. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or better yet, feel free to stop by the live stream that I do just about every day on YouTube, 3 p.m. Central Time. I'd love to talk to you guys there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?